Hey, IB Environmental students, this is our first podcast on 4.2. We'll have a second one that you need to watch over this homework assignment. All right, let's talk about the causes for extinction. And don't forget that extinction is forever. All right, what are some non-human causes for extinction? So here they are. They are varying, and they range from things like volcanic events, things that could change temperature. That could be the water temperature. That could be overall climate. This could be sea level rise, a meteorite hitting Earth, the whole Earth getting icy through glaciation, or maybe there's some sort of new predator competing and causing a low population. There's also a lot of human reasons that an organism could go extinct. We have an acronym for this called HIPPO. Here they are, and you have them directly in your notes. Habitat destruction and fragmentation, an introduced or invasive species, pollution, population weird changes, and overconsumption. Remember, that's the acronym HIPPO. All right. Right now, though, what I want to note is we don't have stuff to put in all of these directly, but you're going to get case studies for these throughout the rest of this topic. For instance, here's our case study for introduced species, also known as invasive species. We have this animation here showing this organism called the cane toad, which is found in Australia. See, this is Australia. And we see this black area is getting bigger very quickly. The cane toad was hypothesized to hopefully bring some balance between this other issue species called the cane grub that was attacking the Australian sugarcane industry. And because of this grub eating all their sugarcane, which was an economic hardship for their agricultural industry, they brought in these toads from Hawaii, hoping that the toads would eat the yucky cane grubs and then the sugarcane industry could boom back. Well, unfortunately, after the cane toad was introduced in 1935, you see this image starts in 1940, the toad population somehow rapidly starts to increase. And this is because the species is eating a lot of the grasses and damaging the biodiversity. The real problem here is that this species had no predators for itself. It's toxic, and anything that tried to eat it would die and perish. On top of that, they actually didn't end up even eating the cane grub because they came out at different times of the day. One of them, the cane toad, mostly came out in the evening, and the grub comes out in the morning. So it wasn't even coming out at the right time. So scientists didn't really do their homework on this one, did they? So unfortunately now this guy's invading and killing off the natural populations that normally inhabit Australia. So not only did it not do its job, it did more damage than good. There are three major types of extinction. So we can think of that cane toad example. It came in, and actually, unfortunately, it even, because birds tried eating it, some of the natural bird species went extinct. So when we talk about extinction, we could talk about this as local extinction. The species is no longer found in that particular area any longer, but maybe it's found in another nation or country. This is not what we normally think of extinct. It's only local. Ecological extinction means that there's so few members of the species that it's not really doing its function anymore. We're kind of in this area for the oyster population in the Chesapeake Bay. Oysters are supposed to be helping our Chesapeake Bay clean the water, and they're not doing that anymore. Biological extinction is what we're normally thinking about. Our example is mostly going to be the dodo bird. This species is not found anywhere on Earth anymore, and that's for forever. And there's no going back once they're really, really gone. When we think of extinction, we also have to think about there's been extinction throughout geologic history, throughout millions of years, and that extinction rate has changed over time. So in your notes, you see this big table, and I have a bigger, more complicated table here. So pause this and try to fill in as much as you can. If there's extra information you want to add it on the side. Overall extinction rates have been high in the past, but we're definitely higher than background extinction rate right now. So for instance, our background extinction rate is really the local environmental changes. Maybe there's a drought or something that might cause some species locally to disappear, even potentially biologically disappear. This is an extinction rate that never really comes above 25% of the families. However, a mass extinction is thought to be catastrophic or widespread. Think when the dinosaurs disappeared. 25 to even 75% of the species that normally exist just disappear off the face of the planet, and they're never coming back. Mass depletion is going to be a bit higher than the background rate at 25%, but not that high. This is kind of like in this middle gray area. We really think of the high 75% range for mass extinction. So going back to our previous image, these are our mass extinctions. This means that a ton of the species are gone. Think about our Triassic, our dinosaur period. Almost 95% of all the species disappeared because of the meteorite hitting. Pretty crazy, right? But what we want to think is we're having 6 mass extinction that is considered right now. The estimated losses are still unknown. But what we're thinking is right now, humans are some of the major causes for the extinction rate right now. All right, so what's the consequences of these extinctions? Well, we're having biodiversity reductions, and we know what that might do to stability in our ecosystems. But in some ways, it can be good. Think succession. We're going to have vacant niches for new species to evolve into, and that's going to create even more diversity later. This is how mammals became huge and very diverse on our planet. But the really cool thing that's kind of crazy to realize is 99.9% of all the species that ever were in existence are now extinct. So we are just what's left on this planet, less than 0.1% of the species that have ever existed on the planet. A lot of things have prematurely gone extinct. Here are some examples. Remember, some of those major factors are things that relate to hippo, such as overhunting, habitat destruction, and invasive species. We'll talk about these examples more in class. Lastly, we have some characteristics that are very present in most often vulnerable species. These are things that are having very low amounts of babies. Here's some examples. Maybe they don't have very many habitats or foods that they like. They have a specialized niche. Maybe they don't exist many places. They only exist on islands like the Galapagos finches. Or maybe they're top order predators. We know that those things often are impacted by bioaccumulators the most. And lastly, we also have things that migrate a lot. Those things tend to get hit by lots of issues across all the places they migrate. Once again, maybe the things that are rare because they're only in that one location. If that location gets hit by a disaster, they might perish. Things that are commercially valuable that might get over-harvested or over-hunted. Think rhinoceros or elephants that we're harvesting their tusks. And lastly, things that have large territories, that those territories might get impacted by humans. Think the grizzly bear or the panther that often have their habitat destroyed by humans. All right, you made it. Good job, IB Environmental students.